Make yourself comfortable. Move your spine around a little bit. So here we are in our Vata practice, which is balancing air and space. Um, so we're going to stay kind of low to the ground today, do some strengthening work from there. Um, Definitely do some flows and some holds, some flows and some holds. So we want to warm warm up the body because as we come into Vata, the, the weather is getting cooler, and we want to develop that internal strength and steadiness because it's an easy time to get spaced out. And astrologically, this time of year right now is kind of, if you go into that realm, it's wild. It's kind of wild. And so if you feel like things are a little discombobulated, no, it's not you. It's the universe. so so what can we do in our own way to balance out the wild energy that's all around us? So we can see, energy that's not contained is chaos. And chaos is not, we can't really criticize it too much. Chaos is actually creative energy. It's just untapped creative energy. And the remedy to feeling comfortable in that idea of untapped energy that's swirling is to stay centered in ourselves and to allow ourselves to hold on to that center. And then when we're centered, which is going to be our focus today, is really coming home to center, developing strength physically, which gives us a sense of confidence and courage when we feel physically strong. And then we'll flow our breath. We'll use our breath, really controlling the breath so it's deep and even. That creates a centering and a calming to the nervous system. And of course, that mindful breath brings our mind into the moment. So you really want to gift ourselves this practice time to stay in the moment. So being present, again, over and over again. So that pause that brings us back home to ourself, that's something to integrate throughout our days as we get pulled away from center and we come back again. And when we're in that place of center, what's really powerful about that is then we can actually see the possibilities of all the swirling, untapped creative potentiality around us. And that's a lot of what we're moving through right now. There's a lot of change, there's a lot of unknowing, and that can be kind of scary and create some anxiousness, especially in the Vata realm. If we feel all right, Vata's, if you're a Vata constitution, you tend to move towards nervousness and anxiousness anyways. And so we all can more easily feel that Vata imbalance. And so we pull ourselves back to center, and then we can tap into that. Like, what's my potential here? How can I reframe my own perspective and my actions so that I can redesign or maybe recalibrate how I'm operating in this new normal kind of thing. So think of that created, that chaos energy that's swirling around, not contained. As long as we stay grounded and centered and hold, then we can kind of tap into that and take a little bit of it. Here's a little creative energy and something new. And so we can evolve. And this is all about what's called the evolutionary spiral. So how do we evolve? First of all, we have to stay centered, and then we can grow from there. So we'll take that into our thought process today. Drop into your comfortable seat. Feel your hips hitting the ground, sinking into the ground, drawing up from the crown of the head in opposition. And let's imagine that central axis through ourselves, from the base of our spine to the crown of our head, earth to heaven, heaven to earth. Arrange your outer body around that central axis. And consider for yourself what is evolving for you in your life. How are you adapting your way of being? these days. So the key to adaptability again is being centered, being calm, being present. Take several breaths there. And then feel the flow of your breath and begin to harness a little bit more control on the breath. So as you exhale the next breath, keep exhaling. Really kind of push the breath out till you're truly empty. And then pause momentarily, maybe for a 4 count. And then slowly inhale. So don't hold your breath so long that you gasp. You just want to slowly inhale. Maybe it's a 4 count. Maybe it's a 6 count. Really feeling the fullness. So make sure you breathe in all the way, 4 or 6 counts. Feel that fullness. Really go for the full capacity. Pause in that fullness, relaxing around that, and then exhale. Slowly exhale 4 to 6 counts, empty completely. So there's a little bit of effort to utilize the full capacity of your lungs. Pause in that emptiness, that stillness, relaxing, softening, and then slowly, when they're prompted, take a breath in. So do about 5 more rounds of this, focusing on that stillness between the breaths and really emptying all the way and filling to capacity. And then as you continue with your breath, you may shift that pattern slightly or maintain it if it feels welcoming. Create an intention for yourself around this concept of remaining connected to the center of your being, remaining calm in the center of the chaos. Choosing words that resonate for you. I'm at home in my own skin. I connect to my core. I stay centered in the core of my being. Whatever words are true for you, that holds you in place and bring you back when there's a distraction or a disturbance. And then in your next 3 breaths, as you exhale, go ahead and release your jaw and exhale ha breath. Because this breath, a wonderful thing to take into your day-to-day life, is really releasing, relaxing for the nervous system. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. On your next exhalation, let's go ahead and move the chin into the throat, feeling the space at the back of the neck lengthen. Feel the stretch point move down the neck, in between the shoulder blades, begin to round the spine slowly, taking the stretch point slowly down the spine. Let the pelvis rock back a bit. And when you're in that flexion, stay for a few breaths, chin close to the throat. Maybe even sway a little right to left. If you flare your elbows out, you'll feel a little bit more stretch point across the back body. And moving your breath into the back body. Let the back side expand with your inhalation. Noticing how your breath can change the sensation of the movement. As you exhale, perhaps feel a little more engagement in the front body. Release unnecessary tension, especially in the neck and shoulders and the jaw. If you're moving, come back to stillness. And then on your inhalation, begin to rotate the pelvis forward on the sitting bones. Pull the lower back in, lift the heart, and lift the head. And let's just roll the shoulders. So as you're rolling the shoulders, find that settling. Let's hold on to that image of the inner body lengthening from the earth to the sky, that central axis. I often call it the golden thread, lifting from the crown of the head, but not just from the head, but all the way through that line just in front of the spine. Energetically, it's called Sushumni Nadi. It's the major energy channel of all of our systems. Drop into center. And lift a little bit from the base of the skull so you feel spaciousness around the neck. And then let's go ahead, if you'd like, you can keep the legs folded or bring them out. I kind of like to give my knees a break after sitting with crossed legs. If you're on a bolster, you can either maintain that or take it out. We're going to do a little opening of the shoulders and the rib cage. So taking the hands out to the side or onto your bolster, depending on the length of your arms, we're going to push down to lift up. And find that sense of neutral alignment. So our natural curve of the spine, lower back in, front ribs dropping down so you're not arching your back. Arm bones drawn slightly back so your collarbones are broad. And then again, lifting from the base of the skull. Just find that spaciousness, that Vata energy, the spaciousness within you. And then let's just draw the head over to your left. I'm going to mirror you. So left side. And the side of the neck. And then you can take your chin ever so slightly forward or back to find your just right place. Where does your neck want to open? Find that place and then hold. Release out through your right arm, kind of pulling it out a little bit. Let's spin the bicep and the palm of the head towards the sky. Bend the elbow a bit. And then start to extend up and over as you lean towards your left. And again, you can shorten the leverage by bringing the hand to the shoulder. Or you could choose to go up and over. So again, you're feeling into your own experience. Keeping that right hip grounded is going to make a difference in the waistline area. And once you're over in that side bend to your comfort, you could grab your head. I kind of like to hold my head so it's not just hanging. So find that side bend, lateral flexion, and then maybe turn the head around a little bit. Just go in and explore. You could also slightly bring the chest down or chest up. Notice all the different sensations you can bring with the intention of opening the space between the ribs for a deeper, fuller breath. And really to come back to that breath we started with, fill up all the way. Oftentimes we take a breath in, but we're not in full capacity. And the same on the exhalation, we let the breath go, but there's still a lot of residual breath in the body. So exhale all the way. So if there's a little force involved in the in-breath or the out-breath, that can happen to empty or fill up, but then soften after that. Don't hold on to that tension. So pause in center, so your face is forward, and begin to take the top arm back down. Let it pull you back up to center. Ooh. Roll the shoulders. Take the arms up like you're holding a couple of hors d'oeuvre trays and very gently rotate the spine. Coming to center, Fingers come back down, right ear to shoulder. Finding that first point of sensation. And then reaching out with your left hand, left arm, turning the bicep, palm up. So you're adjusting that shoulder girdle. And then start to come slowly into the side body. Breathing your way in, moving from that central axis. So imagining what it looks like inside. Exploring the territory, the little shifts you can make. Empty all the way. Fill back up to capacity. Find center if you're moving. Let the arm come down first. Let it slowly pull you back up. Take your palms up, hold your hors trays, and again, gentle twists, maybe into one side, out to the other. Find the breath that serves you. Keeping the legs straight or bending. I'm going to go back to a bent knee, but either one for you, whatever feels best on your joints. Sit nice and tall. And then we're going to twist to the side. So come towards your left, taking your right hand to your leg. And you want to stay upright. So turning around that central axis. Your left hand's behind you, either on the bolster or the floor. Ground your sitting bones rather than letting that right sitting bone come up. There's a tendency to lean. Drop down and then turn your rib cage, keeping your hips square towards the screen. Turn your rib cage and then you're all the way through your neck. So we're twisting the thoracic and cervical vertebrae. And then very gently pulse it as you exhale. Go just a little deeper into the resistance. And as you inhale slightly away and fill up, feel your body expanding and into the twist. And then I invite you to really bring your awareness to the right kidney area. So when you come into the twist, you actually let your right elbow flare a little and fill that space up. There's a tendency to really lift the chest and collapse the kidney, kind of contract around the kidneys. And I think you'll find it feel really good when you move into that twist, but keep that kidney area puffed up a bit. Breathe into that. Even as you exhale, pull the front ribs down so that mid-back, that lower rib cage, that kidney adrenal area stays open. One more breath into it. And then release the head forward and unwind the spine. Pause center. Let's lift the heart a little higher, taking the elbows back. Open the throat a bit. Feel the front line of the spine open. And then we'll go back to a little cat-cow, flaring the elbows. So again, feel that opening and then that gentle compressing of the kidney adrenal area. So we're massaging those the organs and glands there. So as I stated, Vata types or Vata imbalance, which we're all susceptible to, does tend to express itself in the form of anxiety, nervousness. So this is a wonderful thing to massage those adrenal glands in case they've been overly stimulated. I'm going to soothe them. Now find center from the pelvic floor to the crown of your head, earth to sky. And we'll turn to the other direction. Beautiful sunshine today. Anchor your left hip down, turn from the rib cage, collarbones broad, and then turn through the neck. So again, we're moving into that point of resistance, our minimum edge to start. And then inhale and slightly back off, and then exhale, go in. So you're not releasing all the way. You're just playing with that transition of maybe maximum edge, minimum edge. So we're internally connecting to not just the muscles that are surrounding our spine, but those internal organs. So remember to puff up that kidney area by keeping your front ribs drawn down. And know that you're also gently twisting those digestive organs as well. It's nice to have fresh flowers in the house as I'm taking my drishti to my outdoor plants that have come indoors. Notice where your gaze is going in your home. Where are your eyes resting? What colors and textures are you seeing? Can you keep your gaze soft and just take in your surrounding without having to be distracted? Pause in that last breath. Really give it a good squeeze and then bring the head forward, gaze forward, and release. Let's again release the shoulders. And this time, we're going to go a little bit faster. So we're going to take it. Keep your head neutral. Your head's not going to go up and down. You're going to keep your gaze forward. But we're really rocking back and forth. And now the breath is out, in. And you could go out through the mouth or the nose. Find a gazing point out in front of you. You can look away from the screen and find something neutral, above or below. Rest your eyes. Keep going. We're bringing some prana into the spine here. Think of priming the pump. Keep your shoulders relaxed. There's sometimes a tendency to grip your shoulders up as you round your back. Keep those arm bones drop down. Just move from your center. Again, out through the mouth and the nose. A few more times. Get that energy moving. Now come right into center. Settle as you exhale. Feel what you're awakening. Find that evenness of breath. And then we'll transition to an all fours position. So create your space on your mat, with or without a blanket, under your shin bones. Look and see that your knees are pelvic width apart. They should be upright, your thigh bones upright, and your hips directly over your knees. And you want to think of the inner thighs. You could take your toenails down or toes tucked, what feels comfortable. Make sure your big toes aren't traveling towards each other. Keep them separated. Inner edge of the foot long. And then from the feet to the shins, there's a straight line. From the knees to the hips, there's a straight line. Drawing back then on the top of the femur, you could think inner thighs back, and then hug the space between your legs. Put some energy there, just like we do in mountain pose. Hug isometrically between the legs. Draw the inner thighs back, feeling the sitting bones rise up. And then lift your head and let the spine go into that gentle extension. So the sitting bones are rising. You're allowing the waistline to drop towards the floor. And now greet that waistline with the tone of the belly and a gentle hugging in of the rib cage in the front body. Now keeping that lumbar curve, but drawing a little, puffing up those kidneys again by drawing the front ribs in. Feel the stability you create in your body with those two actions. Okay, thigh bones back and wide, tone the belly, and then looking at your hands, which should be forward of the shoulders, press into the floor. Really greet the earth with your finger pads. Hug into the earth. Press the inner edge of your hands in and hug your lower arm bones towards each other. Are you still hugging your legs? And then as you press into your hands, think of drawing the upper arm bone outward. So you're externally rotating. So your biceps come a little more forward without losing contact with the inner hand. And feel the tips of your shoulder blades come together. Now that might push your kidneys towards the earth. So you want to puff up those kidneys again. So just hold that stability, pressing into the fingers and the hand. So the weight's into the front of the hand, unweighting the wrist a bit. Lengthen the crown of the head away from your tailbone and lift from the back of your head. Avoid lifting from your nose. There should be some action here. Even though we're holding this one position, you're stabilizing your core. You're pulling everything, muscle energy, towards that central axis. And then on your next breath, holding that stability, expand where you can internally and the length of your spine. Take the right leg back behind you, putting the ball of the foot on the floor, and then press into the foot to anchor out through the heel and get a deep stretch from your Achilles through your calf. Inner spiral the thighs again, because the tendency will be to roll up on that hip. So let's not do that. Let's keep the hips square, belly toned, front ribs lifted, heart wide open, breathing. One more breath, and this time you're going to go ahead and shift the weight a little so you can lift your head, and do let the back arch. It'll bring your leg up just to the level of your hip. Lift more from the inner thigh. Spread the sole of the foot so you're neither pointing the foot nor pressing too much to the heel. All four corners of the foot are extended. Your leg is a Tadasana leg. You're toning the belly. One more breath. Feel the lift in the back body, and then bring the knee down and knee to head. You're going to pull it and squeeze the front side of your torso. And then place the knee down and keep rounding as you pull your hips towards the heel, and pop the heel of the hand off the ground to give your wrist a release. Now, as you're coming back like this, can you keep the inner edge of your armpits lifted so you're not collapsing around your neck? Then pressing the hands down, come back to all fours. Repeat, find that foundation, find the alignment of your spine, and then take the left foot back, put the ball of the foot down so you're catching it on your mat and you're pressing through to stretch the heel, the Achilles, and the calf, squaring the hips. Feel those subtle alignment principles that keep your joints open and your spine aligned. Breathe. So come back to that active breath. Empty all the way. Fill to capacity. Then shifting the weight slightly more into the hands. Bring that leg up to the level of the hip. Keep the hips square, so you're going to have to inner spiral that thigh a little. Toning the belly, lifting the kidneys, lifting from the back of the head, and just, again, feel the subtlety of alignment. If you feel a lot in the hip that you're standing on, Make sure you're not leaning into that hip. That's why we want to inner spiral the lifted leg and lengthen that waistline. Both sides of your waistline from hip to armpit. Now bend the knee and bring head to knee and squeeze up. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Hold the squeeze in the front body, placing the knee down, and move your hips more towards your heels, and again, release the wrist joint. And now slowly come forward, and let's let the spine come into extension. Draw the tailbone under and move towards cat flexion. And let's do this fluidly. So let's bring fluidity while maintaining those points of alignment that we just clarified. Noticing how you hold yourself steadily even through your movement. Stay connected to that central core of your being as you move. Make your way into neutral again. And then we're going to come to the floor. But first, if you have a blanket, you need to move back on the blanket. And then we'll come into a neutral push-up, our neutral alignment in push-up position from the knees to the shoulders. So let's feel this action of my spine is not changing, but the shoulders, the arm bone is changing position, right? We're letting the shoulder blades come together and apart. I call it flossing the shoulder girdle. You're really hugging your arms towards each other. So you're going to feel the muscles that wrap from your shoulder blade around your ribs, called your serratus anterior, because they come to the front of the body. They're squeezing. So squeeze those. Hug your elbows in. Tone the belly to lift the kidneys. Lift the back from the back of the head. And then bend your elbows a little bit and straighten. Breathe in and still hugging in on the sides of those ribs. Hugging your arm bones towards each other. Little mini dips. I really like these because it maintains integrity of alignment in your shoulders. Okay, then we're going to come down, bring the pelvis to the floor, belly to the floor, ribs to the floor. Oh, let's take the arms out and give the wrists a release. So it is a bit on the wrists, isn't it? So that's okay. If you have any wrist issues, you might need to do that from your fist. But it's really actually very strengthening for the wrist bones. Now, let's bring the hands right next to the heart. Take a moment to arrange your legs shoulder width apart. So bring more space between the legs. Okay, press down. And then, actually, I changed my mind. We're going to put your hands underneath your head. And let's find that same action in the leg. You can put your head to one side or forehead down. Find the same principles of alignment. Always come back to those. So from here, the feet are grounded, the knees are pressed a bit to keep the knees unlocked. And then you're toning the belly, yet keeping, so even here, inner thighs lifted. Okay, the tendency is to squeeze our buttocks, which is externally rotates the thighs. That would tighten things and lock down the sacrum. We don't want that. We want fluidity in our pelvis around the sacrum. So if you can get that sense of lifting the inner thighs so that there's a sense of spaciousness around your sacrum. Look for that. Feel for that. Tone the belly. Okay. Now, pressing into the earth with your left leg, lift your right leg. Now again, feel your hips square. There's a tendency to rock. Let's not. Keep the pelvis square to the floor. So again, you're lifting from the inner thigh. The foot is spread. You're holding. And then even though you're lengthening through your leg, I'd like you to get a sense of hugging your thigh bone into your hip socket. So you keep your joint secure while you lengthen the long bones of the leg outward. You're still holding. One more breath and lower down. So we're sustaining movement today. If you're turning your head to one side, you might want to turn it to the other. So before you even lift that other leg, hug the muscle to the bone without locking the knee. Lift from the hip. Lift a little bit more strongly from the inner thigh to keep that hip joint grounded. Feel what's activated. If you slightly bend the knee, the hamstrings can come more into action as well as the glutes. And breathe. And even lifting this leg, you're activating those lower back muscles a bit as well. We'll get into the whole spine. Hold and breathe so you can really feel into the refinement of the form. And then slowly release down. Now lifting your head off the floor. Okay, take your arms out. And your elbows are forward of your shoulders. Your hands can be out on the edge of the mat. I'm going to have you put your head down, but watch for a second. When you lift, you want to lift not close to your head, but out so that your shoulder girdle's open, and then turn the thumb up. So you're lifting, again, you're externally rotating your arm bones. So you could put your head down and just hold that arm up for a moment. It's just one arm. And you're refining. Where's that energy coming from? So even though your arm is outstretched, you can take it to a slight V direction instead of right up by your ear. And that way you can lift a little more through the inner edge of your armpit, outer edge down. That would be externally rotating the humerus, your upper arm bone. And as you're lifting, you want to feel the lift really coming from your shoulder blade muscles. So hold on to that. And then again, just like the leg, even though the arm's outstretched, you're hugging your arm bone into your shoulder girdle as you lift. And then you're still lengthening from your waistline to your outer armpit. Last form to find. Refine that. One more breath, staying so we can feel and refine, and then release down. That should be activating. Let's go to the other arm. Out, slight V, head can be down. And then as you lift the arm first, before you lift it, hug the muscle to the bone. Create stability and then mobility. And as you come up, make sure the elbow's not locked. You're hugging the muscles. You're reaching out and hugging in simultaneously. The inner edge or your bicep side is lifting a little more actively. So you create space around your neck and you really allow the muscles around your shoulder blade to lift that arm bone. And then find the length from your waistline to your outer armpit. One more breath. And release it down. Okay, so let's put that all together. Arms out to the edge of your mat or even wider. If anyone has a shoulder issue where that feels like too much compression, go wider, bend your elbows a little more. So give yourself permission. Forehead comes down to the floor. I'm going to turn my head so you can hear me better. Anchor into the earth first. So we always want to start with grounding. Anchor the pelvis, tone the belly. Even here, you're going to feel your shoulder blades hug into your back. So the top of your arm bone will lift a little. Let's press the left leg down. Bring the right leg up from the inner thigh. And then bring your head up from the back of the head and bring the opposing arm up. So we're going to feel that
stay for a bit and really feel the alignment. So the inner thigh lifts, the inner arm lifts. We're stretching out through the length of the limbs, and yet we're hugging into the shoulder and hip girdles. Notice what you're feeling. You can opt to put your head down or lift it up, but this is actually very strengthening for the neck. So if you just bring a natural cervical curve, anterior curve into your neck, we're strengthening the whole length of the spinal column, all the muscles that support it, and then slowly lower down and other side. So root to rise, anchor the pelvis, anchor the leg that's on the floor, anchor the arm that's on the floor, and then come up and stay for several breaths. Develop your stamina. Find that same breath we've been working with. Long, slow, deep breath in. Long, slow, deep breath out. Refining the alignment subtly. Dissolving unnecessary effort. One more breath. Release it down. We're going to do it again on the other side. You might want to wobble the hips a little and then anchor and lift, opposing limbs. Now, if you feel a lot going into your lower back muscles, yes, we're strengthening that area. But the answer to releasing any undue stress would be tone your belly more. Think of those front ribs hugging in. That will lengthen that curve in your spine. And then go back into the shoulder hip girdle. Maybe lift a little more from the chest or the back of the head, keeping the nose down. We're not lifting from the nose. Patience as we build this stamina and hug in around our core, developing our inner connection. One more breath. And release. If you're turning your head, release it. Maybe wobble before the other side. Before you come up, ground, hug muscle to bone, and then slowly come up, opposing limbs. Focusing in on the evenness of breath, staying calm as you challenge the strength of your body. There should be some challenge here. One more breath. Do we hold as long as that? I'm not sure. And then release down. Now, my friends, we're going to flow. So now let's go ahead and lift. And you might come up higher since you're not going to stay as long. And with your breath, lift and lower. And be very mindful of your alignment. You might want to bend the elbow a little more and change ever so slightly on the musculature. Flowing up and down. So feel yourself moving with grace. From that place of stability, we can actually move more easily. One more time each side, almost like you're swimming through water. That's how I like to imagine here, in slow motion. And then pausing, bringing your head under your shoulders, wobble a bit. Breathe all the way down into your kidney area, letting your lower back expand and release with the breath. Then pressing into the ground, head comes up, arms slide back towards your chest and peel up. Coming to that all fours position. Now slowly go opposite. Feel a sensation of shifting those curves. Stretching into the muscles you just lengthened, maybe bringing your hips towards your heels.
Now back to all fours. Some of you may choose, if your wrists, I know some of you have some wrist stuff. So if you do, what you can do is place your forearms on blocks. Then you're not so low and you're off your wrists, because we're going to do some more work for the back side. Okay. And make sure you have your knees supported with a blanket if you need more support. So pressing down into your forearms or your hands, tone the belly and the back. Now here's a little different movement. We're going to shift one leg out, okay? And as you lift, we'll take it up, but they're going to move it over to the side. Just keep your knee facing the ground, but take it out to the side. You won't go very far because you're facing your toes and your knee to the ground. And lift again. That's going to work the outer edge of your pelvic, of your hips, called your glute medius. Then you're going to bring it back to center and take it out again. Keep the belly toned. So you're sustaining your support in your core as you keep the leg hip height and slowly go out and in. But don't turn your knee towards me. That would be a different muscle. You want to keep your kneecap and the top of your foot facing the earth. And you start to feel this on the outer hip. Meanwhile, the leg that's on the ground, super ground the shin bone to take the weight off of your knee joint. Oops, I dropped my leg a little bit. And keep your hip drawn back from the waistline. If your hip starts to slide up towards your waist, you might get too much tension in that supportive leg. Now let's go out to the side, pause, lift the heart. See if you can shift your weight and bring the opposing arm up. Oh, stretch it out, kind of like a starfish. And then bring it all back in. How's that for balance? Plant the hands. Choose down dog or child. So you might at this point want to come off the knees and loosen up the knees a little bit. Or you can come back towards child. Just a release before we go to the other side. So coming back into all fours. I'll do it on the hands this time, just as a demo. Forearms or hands. Anchor into the earth. Tone the belly. Take the other leg out. Lift it up to hip height. So again, you're keeping that inner thigh lifted. And then you're going off to the edge. I'm going to move forward so I don't hit my flowers. Off to the side a little bit. And then back to center. So you're going out. Still lifting, so it's a lift and a lateral action. Meanwhile, make sure you're not collapsing on your supportive hip. And the way you don't collapse is you keep your side body long. Squeeze into it. How about that breath? Is it attending to your movement? So breathe in one direction, breathe in the other direction with the leg. Inhale one move, exhale another. Now take it lateral, still lifting center. Find your balance. Bring the arm up and breathe. And then release. Find equality between the limbs. Choose child or downward dog. And then meet back at all fours. Draw your hands closer to your knees, okay? This is going to be rabbit pose with a little wrist release. So we curl in deeply, head towards knees, right onto the top of the head. So at first feel that, keep most of the weight in your legs. Hold underneath your shin bones and flare your elbows. That'll release. Your wrists are now neutral, right? You're stretching open the joint.
If you can, grab onto your feet if they reach back there. Curl in deeply. Again, flare the elbows. And a little pressure out on the outside of your wrist. So you're releasing the wrist joint if you were in fact on your hands. Full breaths, empty all the way. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze the breath out. Sustain that exhaled breath, that stillness of emptiness. Then take a nice long deep breath in, fill up all the way. Exhale again, all the way, empty, empty, empty. Hold the breath out. Slowly breathe in when you need to. And then let's go ahead and transition, hands next to the head. Slowly come up onto all fours. Wiggle it out a little bit. Okay. And then come around onto your hips. Okay. Move my blanket. All right. Take your legs out in front of you. Nice wide open stance. And then we're going to bend the knees and take the hands towards I'm going to go this way so you can see my spine, towards the ankles. And you want to, anywhere along the shin that works for you. Push your elbows into your legs and pull your legs into your elbows. Okay? My calves just started kind of cramping a little, so I'm pulling my toes up to release that. So if that happens for you. Okay, we're going to release that. Kind of, if you can't grab the feet, it's kind of a nice, you can really pull back and lift your chest up. So either way. So you're just finding that sense of rotating on the pelvis. Chest is open. Spine is long after all that work on the back side. Now we're going to hinge first into the hip joint. So see how far you can pull the whole torso forward. Some of you might want to be up on a block or a bolster. And the reason the knees are bent is so that the hamstrings are out of the equation. It might help you get forward more. And then we're going to round the back. So first, forward on the pelvis. Sometimes I rock on the sitting bones to get the flesh out from underneath them. And then chin to throat. And instead of pulling into yourself, you're going to you're letting your weight drop, but keeping length. So think of moving your head more forward, as if it was going to come between your feet. I don't think that will work because your body's not that long. But instead of pulling in, go out and round. And now you're rounding and opening those muscles that we just worked quite a bit. From here, you might choose to put your hands on the floor instead. Make sure they're shoulder width apart so your heart's wide open. Whether you're holding your legs or pressing or putting your hands on the floor, flare the elbows a bit so you're really opening between the shoulder blades. And then your next option is to take the legs out a little further. Some of you might want to lift the heels and push out. That's if it's available. Okay. So you're finding your way into this forward fold straddle. We do this a lot standing. So notice how it feels to do in a seated position. And I'm going to take my legs a little wider apart because that's what my body's urging. So feel into it. Imagine how you do this pose from a standing position. It's easier because gravity works for you. Here you have to work a little bit more, pulling forward through the torso to keep that pelvis drawn forward. You could also get a sense of the pubic bone drawing away from your navel. So your pubic bone drawing towards the floor and the back of your sitting bones lifting up. So you're going deep into your hips. And again, the knees could be bent instead if that feels better for you. Let's stay for 5 deep, those deep, deep cleansing breaths. Fully exhale all the way. And then you're going to pause in that exhalation, just resting in that quietness. No force or strain. And then you're inhaling slowly. So we're actually exercising our lungs by filling to capacity and emptying all the way and holding that breath out for a bit. And not just feeling the inside as you bring the breath into your lungs. Notice how it's affecting the shape of your rib cage, front, sides, and back. If any tension begins to build anywhere in your body, stay attentive so you can catch it. Resolve it, maybe shifting your position slightly. Maybe you find yourself going a little deeper into the stretch points or slightly backing off. So 3 more breaths. Calming with the breath, creating stillness. And then to come out, I'd like you to come out slowly, not just with one breath, but slowly walk yourself out of that form. Okay. And their next move will be to either leave your legs straight like this, or some of you might want to release one knee. And then you could also, if the knee doesn't feel, if it feels vulnerable being up in the air, you could give a little support to your knee. And this foot can be, it doesn't have to be right against the other leg. It's just to release one set of the hamstring. So again, this could be a straight leg position or a bent knee. And this other leg remains straight. I'm just going to move back a little to be on my mat. Okay. And then instead of going forward, which we just did forward, we're going to go to the side. So turning your navel and your heart towards the bent knee. Coming kind of back to where we started with those hands down to help lift and lengthen the torso. Okay. And feeling that turn towards the bent knee. So if you're, I don't know which leg, your straight leg's out, your hand comes to the floor inside, and you're turning away from the straight leg and then letting your head drop towards that shoulder. Keep your heart wide open. You might want to take the back arm, either leave it on the floor, or you can even set it on the rim of your pelvis and help anchor that back hip down. Okay. Now when you look up, I want you to feel this. When you turn your face up, chin away from throat, you're actually putting some strength into your neck muscles. You'll feel them engage, right? Chest open. And then when you feel like you've had enough there, you turn the head, not the shoulder, just the head, and you bring it down, and now you can lengthen. So you're going to be playing with that as we move on to other territory in the torso. So you can adjust your head to either strengthen or lengthen the neck as we start to bend, lateral flexion, torso towards legs. Some of you might want to put your forearm on your thigh if you don't want to go as low. Okay. Some of you will be able to go lower and bring the elbow towards the floor. So again, give that neck a little strengthening without overdoing. So as you move into it, we're taking our time today, aren't we, to be in form and to really feel to the subtlety of sensation and making some choices. Maybe the back arm comes up and you can extend the elbow. Maybe catch the head. I kind of like that because then I can rest my head in my hands. Elbow open. Now you could also slightly lower the chest and puff up those kidneys, anchoring that back hip as you reach over. So drop into those
little pockets of refinement. And keep that breath flowing deeply and evenly. Some of you might even go further and stretch the arm overhead. The full form, this is called Parvrita Janu Shirshasana, which means revolved forward fold, is to capture the foot out there. But that's not for everyone. Be careful because the side body, you don't want to overextend it. You want to find that just right place. And we're not collapsing, right? There's length in the spine, whether it's slightly rounded, but try and keep that side body up. So if reaching for the foot collapses you, it's not worth it. Okay, find where your body's open. And breathe in. Feel how your breath can change the shape of the pose from the inside out. Last 3 breaths. Be there completely, whatever form you've chosen, whatever shape you've taken from the suggestions. And then take your time releasing. Maybe I like to turn my belly chest a little bit more towards the floor to come up evenly. It's a lot on your back muscles, right? That whole fascial area being opened. So let's go ahead and turn towards the bent knee or the other leg if it's straight. And just give it a little twist and we'll pulsate a little bit. So a little movement. Squeeze and release. Then unwind. Straighten the leg out if it was bent. Take your hands behind you. Let's do a little opposing and lengthen from navel to heart. Let your shoulder blades lift your heart. And then your neck, up to you. Chin either drops to the throat or open the throat. And just pause and hold there, allowing that low back muscles to come back in because you just opened them up quite a bit. So bring them back home to the bone. All right, the other side. So soften. Okay, we're going to turn towards the other leg. Option to bend that knee. Option to support that knee. So now for me, this hip's more open. It comes deeper to the ground. So I don't need the blanket. So never assume. Be careful. Be fairly aware of what's happening in your body. Turning towards the other leg. Just feel that first. Start slow. Take your time. So that's the idea of this pose, this work today, right? Stay really close inside to the subtlety of the practice. Slowly lowering your way down. Again, bring the neck into the pose. Not in a hurry. Choosing the arm position of the back arm. One step along the way. I'm going to turn around so we can see you. So you're allowing the body to gently open while maintaining that connection, right? So that core connection is what holds our stability and also our truth, the truth of the matter. Rather than trying to create some outward shape or some outward image, like how do people see us? It's more about how we feel on the inside. Good lesson for moving through our days. Am I ready to go deeper, or do I need to back off? Let the internal body guide you. And the breath also. The breath is your teacher. The breath should be deep and easy. See if you can hold that exhalation a little longer. I'll talk about that more on Thursday, but just play with it today. A few more breaths here, noticing your mind state. So how does it feel to slow down, dive in? Is the mind following the physical practice? Taking those last 3 breaths. So when we know they're the last 3 breaths, we can really invite ourselves even more fully into what am I feeling here? What's unfolding? What's resisting? What's awakening? And then when we're ready to let go, how am I going to safely move out of this position? How am I going to support myself way out? Another good lesson in life. Gently turn towards the opposing leg, give a little twist and maybe a little pulsation. And let's straighten the leg that was bit, if in fact it was, both legs out. And then again, let's go back to where we start with bent knee position. Holding the ankles if you can reach them. Leaning into the hip joints. Gently releasing the chin to the throat, coming forward. Now, some of you might be able to go on a little bit more. The knees stay bent. We're actually moving into a pose called the turtle. And you put your hands to the outside of the feet, and then you press your elbows up into your legs. And then you sink in. Now, if this is too much at all on your lower, you need to be careful, right? So just each option is exactly that. It's an option. You might walk your hands out more. So you're like a turtle, and these are your flippers, okay, your feet, and you're actually curling into your turtle shell. It's a deep stretch on the back, so we're actually getting into that lumbar. So if it's too much pressure in the lower back, lift a little higher, bring the heart forward. You might take the feet up and take them either more narrow or more wide. You might go down more into the pose. Maybe not. Again, it's about that inner connection to that core alignment, your core truth. Where can you open and remain safe? And just another breath or two. So ease into your pockets of welcome sensation. And before you come up, you'll bring your hands closer to you underneath your shoulders so you can support that lift. And leaning back, bring the legs in. Go a comfortable seat. You might want to place a blanket under your hips. So when you put your heels right in front of each other like this, it's called Siddhasana. It actually has a name. Beyond, or you could have your ankles cross, Sukhasana. I find I can sit this way better after I've done all that opening of the hips, right? Just depends. So find that length. So we moved around that core, right? Front side, back side, lateral edges. We're going to come back to where we started here with the hands up and twist. Into one side, out to the other, in through the nose, out through the nose or the mouth. Keep your gaze forward and drop it down a little bit. A little bit more. Slow it down. Hands come down. Heart lifts up. Let's go ahead and turn the palms up actually and bring the index finger, thumb together. Thumb goes right over the nail bed. The other fingers extend, but you can just let them be soft. And then arms out near your knees at the same time. You want the chest lifted. If it feels better for you, you might want to bring your elbows closer if that holds the front line open. Anchor both sitting bones evenly. Take the front ribs and settle them down so you got that spaciousness in your mid-back. Collarbones are broad. Soften the neck and jaw. We'll drop into a little seated meditation. So closing your eyes softly. Soften from the inner corner to the outer corner of your eyelids. Sense a smoothing of your forehead and a softening of the skin across your scalp. Feel that golden thread, that imaginary golden thread lifting your head high towards the heavens. And then follow that line from the heavens down through the crown of the head, down through the center of your throat, down just behind the heart, down the center of the torso, through your belly to the center of your pelvis. Feel yourself anchored into the earth. Let that golden thread go beyond your body, down into the earth. And as you inhale, feel the inner body expand and let that energy rise up again from the earth through that central channel all the way through the crown of the head and up to the heavens, holding that lightness and that spaciousness as you then exhale and let that central axis tether you down into the earth again. So feel yourself expanded, open, lengthened between the earth and the sky. That central axis of your core strong, steady, resilient. And then sense everything surrounding that central axis fluid, pulsating between that universal action of expansion and contraction. Feel that unending flow of energy around the steadiness of your core. Your center. Your truth. Feel the outer body softening as you're well supported on the inside. Release any resistance or unnecessary effort. suspended between the earth and the heavens. Sensing the energy that surrounds you, that's in ever flowing, in motion, creative life force of unlimited potentiality. Knowing that the more centered you are in your own being, then you can tap into that creative energy and expand your own aliveness, expand your own creativity. So take these last minutes and noticing how you're expanding and evolving in your own way of being these days. Strong and steady in your core while growing, expanding, and evolving. Allow your next few breaths to be a little bit fuller and empty out all the way. Feel that sensation of emptiness and fullness and the flow between them. Opening to receive, releasing and letting go. Envision yourself moving into this day from the strength of your being, from the steadiness of your center. Being open to the fluctuations of that creative energy that's always moving around you. And notice. Notice when you want to open to it and when you want to draw in. Maybe let go and come back home to yourself. Let's float the hands to the heart, hands pressing gently together. Drop the chin slightly. Seal in the benefit of your efforts today. May your yoga serve you in all of your moments throughout the day. Namaste.